Wintertime in Wisconsin, it's time to change out brakes on the motorcycle. Garage is sufficiently heated, ready to go. In this particular case, I'm going to be using EBC brakes, double H sintered. I have all my tools ready to go: shop rag, rubber gloves, flathead screwdriver, toothbrush for cleaning, wooden dowel to split the brake pads apart or keep them apart without using a metal piece on them, my torque wrench, pair of needle nose pliers to pull the pin, a couple of different socket wrenches, anti-seize copper lubricant, T45, a T30. I use Goo Gone instead of brake cleaner. It's a little easier to work with, in my opinion. That's why the toothbrush is there, a couple of pads, another shop rag, and some lubricant for the pads, the calipers anyway. That's it. Let's get going. First thing is pull this little jobby here. Put that aside. Next up is to loosen that. Leave that in place for now, but just loosen it up. Loosen these. These are 45 size Torx. The other one was 30. These can come completely out. Actually not too bad. There's 30,000 miles on this machine. Brakes have never been changed out, but a lot of that's highway miles, so it ran on highway mostly. They're not too bad, but time to change them and got the things apart. Now I'll go to cleaning. Just like new. Okay, so I'm going to squeeze my right brake handle and get the calipers pistons to come out just a bit, and you can probably see that happening here. Then I'm going to push them back in after I clean them up a little bit. Put a little grease on there, work them back and forth a couple of times. I'm going to put a little grease on here. This is where my stick comes in handy, because I cram it between those two calipers up front, because the back calipers are not coming out as freely as the front one, so I'm forcing the back calipers to come out by jamming the stick in, then applying a little brake in front to force the back calipers to come out. And when I'm done, I'll push the calipers back in and back and forth, get them really well lubricated on this piston and clean all the grease off, squeeze them back together, and get ready to install my brakes, at least the pads. Alright, now it's time to clean things up, get the blue grease off of everything. And I have the pistons pushed all the way back into the caliper, and they're ready to receive new pads. And before I put the pads in, I want to make sure I put a little bit of this copper anti-seize on the pads themselves. Don't need a lot. I've seen some people smear it all the way across. All I need to do is put it where the piston caliper, or the piston surface, is going to meet this brake pad, and it'll keep it from doing anything silly in the future, and it should make the next removal pretty simple as well. And now slip these in, get ready to put the pin and the bracket back in to hold it in place. Our arrow goes up. Get rid of this copper crap off my hands. Most need 3 hands to do this, but it can be done with a little bit of patience. There we go. Everything's in place for temporary purposes at the moment. Give that a couple of screws in to keep it in place. And now I can remove the rags, make sure everything's good and clean. And reinstall the caliper on the disc. Careful not to damage the rim. Inspect those, they'll look pretty good. I'll put a little bit of anti-seize on those ends there just because. Not a whole lot of necessary, but just a smidge to make sure that it's got something on it. Give both of those a tighten, and these will be tightened up to 30 Newton meters, or about 22 foot-pounds if I recall. This little pin's got to go back on there, and you'll notice when you take it off there are 2 grooves. It only goes on the outside groove. There's only one way to get it done because the other one's kind of hidden on the inside of the caliper itself, so you won't have to worry about that. But now that that's on, tighten it up and be good. There's one click. There's second click. Good to go. And this one I've never seen or read how much it gets tightened, but I'm going to give it just about the same amount of pressure. Everything looks good there. Clean off a little bit of my brake fluid here. And I'm going to pump up the brakes and see how she goes. And you can see they just moved into place. And that's your typical brake job. Total time, probably 5-10 minutes at the most to get it off and reinstalled. Probably another 10 minutes for cleanup. A little bit of brake bleed if you want to do that. At the same time, it's probably recommended by most, and you should be doing that on an annual maintenance anyway. So, pretty simple. You don't have to remove the tire, don't have to remove anything else, just that caliper and the pads. Thanks for watching.